Hey. Thanks for pressing play. Welcome once again to another edition of the Suns Jam Session Podcast, the original post-game podcast right here on Planet Orange. I'm your host, John Voida, managing editor of BrightsideOfTheSun.com, and I'm joined by my podcasting partner, a senior staff writer for Brightside, Matthew Lissy, looking ever so elegant after this win over the
Yes.
Is this like a senior photo pose that you're rocking? I like it.
Kind of like that. I'm trying to build a little bit more confidence these days. And I was told by my therapist is sit up straight and put your fingers together. So is it working?
Yes.
How do I look?
You are exuding confidence. Like It's almost like I'm actually less confident talking to you because of all your confidence.
Oh, okay. Well, it's definitely working. I'll let her know.
Yeah.
In my daily session.
Daily. Damn, dude.
Daily. Yeah. Paying some good money.
Well, welcome everybody to the show. John and Matthew, Jam, confident Matthew at that, sitting ever so eloquently. It's going to be really hard for him to click on things, though, because his hands are interlocked, and it just makes it hard to click. So if he's like fumbling with the mouse because he's looking up a statistic, just bear with us. But welcome to the show. Make sure you subscribe, rate, review, do all that fun stuff. A very fun and interesting show on this edition of the Suns Jam Session Podcast, because we're going to start out talking about the Suns holding the Nets to just 84 points. And winning easily the way that they should. And then we're going to talk about all the things that are going on in the Suns world, right? The trading for first round picks, the Jimmy Butler rumors, Matthew saying that I got to create a drop for Jimmy, even though he's not a Sun yet. Have I ever done that? Have I ever created a drop for somebody who doesn't exist on the team?
No, because I think the Kevin Durant thing was almost a for sure thing, I think. But even when it happened, we were very surprised. So
yeah, and I haven't
this
made
one
a
feels
drop
like
for
it
him.
might be real. So that's what I'm saying. Maybe you have to have it prepared. But I don't know if you have anything in mind yet.
I have ideas. So we'll see. We'll see what comes across. But make sure you subscribe, rate, review, smash them if you got them. Plenty to talk about. And let's kick it off to John Bloom, huh?
Session podcast, shooting the shit about the Suns since 2019.
That's right. John Bloom's correct, and he's cussing right here on the Suns Jam Session podcast.
I can't believe he does that live every time too. Is that crazy?
Yeah, he calls in, waits for the exact moment.
Well, John, hold on, we're almost there, buddy.
Yeah, he's like, can you hurry up and start the show because I'm hungry and Kempton's here bothering me and I want to get a hot dog and I have to say this part of the show. So
Grumpy John in the hot dog line.
Have you ever seen him in the hot dog line?
Yeah, he's a little irritated
every time. Well, yeah, because he has to rush, get his food, and then he has to box it up, and he can't eat it till he drives home. But a win tonight for the Phoenix Suns over the Brooklyn Nets, which brings me to my first question.
Matthew, I've got to ask.
Matthew, I got to ask. A 108-84 victory over the Brooklyn Nets. That brings the Suns' road trip, their longest road trip of the year, at least tied for it. Their 5-gamer. They went 3-2. How do you feel about the Suns' road trip?
It's not too bad. Getting through these games is what we're really focused on, and getting as many wins as possible would be nice, right? I think with what's going on behind the scenes, you kind of just want to wrap up these wins against the lesser opponents and move on, because everyone is just sitting and waiting for the trade. And a nice win here or there just helps along. Going over 500, it makes us feel a little bit better. So I'm okay with it, man. How about you?
It was nice to have this game, Jamsters, wasn't it? Like, after literally getting slapped across the face by Cleveland, not only slapped across the face, but then backhanded again. Comical was like, wah, wah. After going through that game where you leave going, we are not a championship contender in any capacity. This team has to pull levers. They have to make trades. They have to do something to give this team and this organization hope, not just short term, but long term. And then you go out and you play the Nets, a team that's depleted, a team that was depleted before when we lost to them 127-117 at home a couple months ago. And to handle the business in the way that they did, I feel like it was just nice to see. And you combine that with the fact that with everything that's been going on around the Phoenix Suns, the trade rumors, the trading of picks, it was nice to just watch basketball. So it was great to watch basketball. It was great to watch stress-free basketball. And of course, the Suns played sloppy. It wasn't a clean game. David Yolovich in the chat, one of our loyal Jamsters, says, just leaving the game in Brooklyn. This was sloppy. And he's not incorrect. You know, the Suns had 11 turnovers. Brooklyn had 17 turnovers in this game, but they end this road trip 3-2, losing to Cleveland. Who was the other team they lost to on this road trip? Atlanta.
It was the Hawks, yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, you beat Charlotte, you beat Washington, you beat Brooklyn, you beat the 3 teams you should beat. And they come home, and I just feel better about this team right now. How are you and just kind of in your headspace around this team? Because I know there's times where you're depressed about this team. There's time when you have to see your therapist on a daily basis to ask you how to sit when talking about this team. And there's times when, honestly, there's hope. So where are you on that kind of gamut after this road trip and with everything that's going on around this team?
I'm kind of just still up in the air. I'm kind of just waiting to see how things unfold. You can't really get a grasp on this team all year long, and right now the wins, they're nice, but you still don't know what this team is until after the trade deadline, right? You got 2 guys that are just not playing right now due to injuries, but they're really just going to probably be traded pretty soon, and Nurkic and also Bradley Beal. So those guys are sitting out. You had the disgruntlement probably from Beal, where he just didn't want to be on the team. So I think the team having to focus on just the game itself has been really difficult. So you're not going to really see a all-out blitz of this team, I feel like, nightly, just because they have so much going on behind the scenes, where maybe a lot of these guys are just thinking too, like, we don't know who we are yet. So let's see how this thing pans out. We'll grab some wins if we can, but we can't really play, I feel like, full throttle until we feel like we have our team heading into the playoffs. And I just think that's how this team is feeling. Like, let's rely on Kevin Durant and Booker to kind of push us through, but there's no semblance still. There's nothing really there. The games kind of suck. They just suck. Even if they win, they're kind of sucky games. I don't mean to be too negative, but they just have been kind of sucky. So like the team, maybe like the rest of the Suns fans, I'm kind of just waiting to see how this thing like heading into the trade deadline, how everything just kind of pans out. So I'm okay with the games. I feel kind of just up in the air right now, man.
It's interesting, though, and you bring up a good point. It's almost like when you're coming back from an injury and how you're just tentative on, let's say that you sprained your ankle, and the next time you go out and you play basketball, you play a little tentative on it because you don't know how much your ankle can take, right? And that's what this team is almost like, is like they're playing with an ankle that's hurt because they're tentative to push too hard on it because they don't know who and what they are and what the capacity can be and how much weight can be put on that ankle. It's how much weight can be put on this roster because at the end of the day, like, is this going to be the roster? That is the challenge with this team right now. So, a segment that I want to start doing here, and I swore I was going to make a drop and I didn't get it done in time. But looking at this game, Matthew, I'll ask you this question. When was this game over, in your opinion?
I think when Book hit, I think maybe the first time this year, his back-to-back threes that were nothing but net. I was like, this game is over. He was feeling way too comfortable. He even smiled after a few times. I'm like, this game's over right then and there. But honestly, I wanted to say when the injury report dropped and that basically the Nets were without everybody, including Cameron Johnson, one of my favorite players to ever live, they weren't. So, of course, you're going to say the Suns, but then also we've seen the Suns go up against these teams that are depleted by injuries, and they just have a horrible time maintaining any kind of confidence. So I'm going to actually say when Booker was actually having fun. That's when I thought it was over.
I like that. I kind of thought this game was over, as you mentioned, when the injury report came out, and there was going to be no Cam Johnson, no D'Angelo Russell as well. But I know this Suns team, and I know that we allow teams that have unproven talent to go off against us. And I think part of that's a mentality when you play against a Kevin Durant and a Devin Booker, and you're a young player and you're finally getting an opportunity to play, you rise up to the level of the players you're playing against. And that didn't happen tonight. So I think it was over, as you mentioned, when I saw Booker hit those back-to-back threes, I was like, okay, we finally hit that point. And here's an interesting stat.
Ooh, dang, stat me.
So the Suns in this game gave up 84 total points. What do you think their previous low to an opponent relative to points is?
I was going to say 99.
93.
93.
They've held
Okay.
opponents under, if you include this game, if they've held opponents under 100 points 6 times. 93 they gave up to the San Antonio Spurs on December 3rd, a game that I missed because I was watching Mariah Carey sing Sweet. No, that was the Zach Bryan concert. I was at Zach Bryan having him sing stuff at me.
Okay. It's just the Spurs, and fuck the Spurs. I hate when we have to bring up that we watch a Spurs game. It just makes
I
me
didn't watch
depressed.
it.
Yeah, I know, but I had to.
That's what's funny though. It's like we've played the Spurs since Wemby came to play the Suns. I think I've watched one game, and it's
One
the one
full
where
game.
Wemby went off because for
Yeah.
some reason every time the Suns play the Spurs, I'm doing something else in my life.
Of course, I think he's in the top 5 right now in MVP voting, which is
Cool.
crazy.
Good for him.
It's cool, but like, come on, they're below 500 still. But whatever.
Good for him. well, let's talk about some of the performances in this game.
Allow me to reintroduce myself. My name is
Big Dick Booker.
As Matthew mentioned, Big Dick Booker was out there looking like he was having a little bit of fun. 14 of 24 from the field, had 32 total points to lead all scorers, had 6 assists, a couple steals as well, a couple rebounds as well. What'd you see from Big Dick Booker in this game, Matthew?
Yeah, I think he was just kind of cruising late in the game. It kind of reminds you of old Book, where he's having a little bit of fun out there. I haven't seen him smile, I think, all year on the court. I don't think that's ever happened. I just know that he kept scoring. The Brooklyn Nets kept calling timeouts to end the game. And I don't know why the Nets kept calling timeouts, but I think it was 3 times in a row. Every time Book would score, they would call a timeout. And he had a little laugh about that. But he was going off. The last time Book smiled, the last time he hit back-to-back 3-pointers, I'm sure it's been this year, but I just don't remember it. But I have missed a few games, so maybe it's in there. But that's the one thing, is this team needs to start having a little bit more fun, right? If we can get Jimmy on this team and get rid of Beal and just get rid of a disgruntled player, then it'd be nice for these guys to get kind of back to, playing serious, playing real games, like playing the games like they actually want to play, but also having fun too. So it starts with Booker, even though him and Kevin Durant are really not just the leaders, but they're also just the guys that everyone, I hope, looks up to. So if they're smiling, they're enjoying themselves, everyone can just be a little bit more relaxed.
Yeah, laughing, smiling Devin Booker. It's something we haven't seen in quite some time. It's something like aggressive, beating his chest, screaming into the crowd Booker. And it's like Blaze Megatron says in the chat, Booker's smiling like he knows something.
Hmm.
And there's a lot of stuff that's going on around the Suns that we'll definitely start talking about here. Not the most efficient night, but some good, tough shot making from Devin Booker. 36 total minutes played to garner his 32 points. It's the 200th game in his career where he has scored 30 or more points. Number 2 all time on the Suns list in that category is Walter Davis, and he has like 89 or something. I mean, it's ridiculous to see what Devin Booker did tonight and continues to do for the Phoenix Suns in his 10 years here. And something that KD stands will never understand because they follow a player from stop to stop, whereas we're Suns fans and we've watched all 10 years of this one guy staying loyal to one city, one fan base, and one organization, and we've watched his development and seen those 200 games occur in front of us. And it was again, the tough shot making. Booker's on it. He's on one right now. I mean, it's clear that he's decimating subpar competition. Go figure, when he plays a good team like Cleveland, he sucks ass. I think he had 15 points in the last game. And that's just kind of looter and a riot. That's Devin Booker right now. But he's smiling.
Yeah, with a smile. And, when he has his team around him full within a couple weeks after the trade deadline, when we play an opponent like the Timberwolves, even though they're kind of falling off, but like, a defensive competitive team, like even like out east, I'm going to say the Knicks. And even if we're going to play someone of that stature, you want him to actually show up, right? That's when you get kind of concerned if he's not. Like, the stats have been good, and everyone's like, how come no one's talking about this? Like, the opponents aren't really there, right? The Suns aren't really winning consistently before this. So we'll talk about it once he starts going head-to-head with some real competition.
Yes.
This team is at full. If they're fully healthy, then he has no more excuses. He has to put the stats up, and that's a lead by example on the court.
Is Devin Booker an all-star?
No.
Why?
Because Suns suck. Is Kevin Durant an all-star? Yeah, he's gonna be.
He's gonna
be a starter.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I mean,
You think Book's a
no, I don't.
Yeah.
But it's interesting though, because you bring up the point of like Anthony Edwards and the Minnesota Timberwolves. because that's his primary competition, in my opinion. And Ant's having statistically a better year, but the team isn't performing to their expectations either.
No.
So I mean, it's kind of this. And obviously they're going to release, I believe it's tomorrow, they release the all-star starters, right? And that's the fan vote, which, I mean, I don't have to say it. I say it every year, but I think it's horse shit the way that the fan vote works. Because, like LaMelo Ball is going to be a starter in the all-star game. They've won like 9 games. But that's just, they give the fans what they want. It's like, no, it's no.
Yeah, get them what they want, then everyone still complains when they watch it. And they're just like, nah, I don't really want to watch this.
I didn't want that.
Yeah.
I wanted some, but I mean, at the same time, Booker's not an all-star, even though he's been playing to an all-star level recently. And he does this every year, doesn't he?
He does it. That's the thing. I was just going to say, this happens every year. Like, there's never been a clear year. I think maybe when the Suns were almost like right before Chris Paul, and he had a fantastic first half of the season, and he missed it. But I don't think he replaced anybody that was injured.
No,
that
was
completely missed it. Did he? I think it was when
there was the year where he
was so great, but he still didn't make it. So every other year, I feel like he's just not consistent.
His first one, when Dame Lillard went down,
yeah,
that was one of his better years. But even then, like, it became between. I know the year you're talking about, when it became between him and somebody else. God, who was that other player? And then they played each other head to head right before the All-Star game, and he just got fucking demolished by that other player.
I forget who it was.
So was it someone on Memphis? It's like Mike Conley or something, or like, I don't remember.
Yeah, it was just
But to that point, Booker's not an all-star, but I don't think there's a doubt in our mind that this guy's going to be. I could.
Who the heck are you?
I'm Kevin Durant. You know who I am. Y'all know who I am.
Did anybody see a sniper? Did anybody see anything?
I'm one of the best players to ever play the game.
Kevin Durant in this one didn't have to play the fourth. Thank God. Sorry, microphone. 8 of 15 from the field, 4 of 7 from beyond the arc, 24 points, 8 rebounds, 3 assists, only 1 turnover. It was a bad turnover because they all are. But Kevin Durant didn't have to play the fourth in this one. How'd KD look out there tonight, playing in Brooklyn tonight?
Oh, he was fantastic. And I think you really have to give some credit to Nick Richards, because I feel like he is just kind of taking out the pain and kind of taking a little bit of the pressure off of Durant. Even though Durant did have the 8 total rebounds, like, the effort wasn't really, he didn't have to put forth the effort like normal, right? He didn't have to exert himself out there on the boards. It kind of just fell into his hands. At times, of course, he would go and grab him, box somebody out. But having a bigger guy, more athletic, that's next to Durant definitely does help him. And I think that Durant, man, he's going to start to cook too. I think, both these guys, him and Booker, who knows what's going on behind the scenes, but I think they just were like, we definitely need that trade where we need Jimmy buckets. And if he does come here, I just think that he's going to start to cook, because he's going to have a lot more versatility with just playing the small ball if he wants to, but also just with Jimmy Buckets just playing more physical, and just he's a guy that can rebound. He's a guy that can actually play his position. I think that having just all the length and the athleticism and the strength on that team after the trade, he's going to start to cook even more. And I just keep thinking about him just kind of hitting those mid-ranges, hitting the three-pointers, just playing at ease, like where he's going to actually really excel. So I think he's kind of, him and Book, they might know what's going on, maybe not, but he seems like he's playing a little bit better. I know the Cavaliers game wasn't as great for everybody, but ever since like the couple games ago, him and Book have been really picking it up.
Yeah, it's almost like KD and Devin Booker are performing like Walter White and Jesse Pinkman, because they're starting to cook, baby.
Ooh, I just started watching that again.
Some blue glass is out there, man. Yeah, I think I'm on like season 4 already, rewatching it. But I mean, and even in the Cleveland game, like KD played well. The defense for Cleveland is just, it's like Oklahoma City, right? They hustle, yeah. They're tenacious, they don't let up. But Kevin Durant was fantastic in this game. And he's really had a hard time recently shooting from deep, and he was 4 of 7 from beyond the arc in this game. And the way that he got to his spots, as he typically does, and to hear the crowd respond to him. Like, he had a couple plays where he hit some really tough shots and the crowd responded, because that he used to be theirs, right? Or they used to be his. He used to be theirs. That's right. They used to be here. Whatever. I lost my own train of thought, but he looked great, and he won me money because I bet that he would get 2 3-pointers in this game, and that this guy would end with 8+ rebounds.
Nicky, the great Nick Richards. Richard means Dick, that's why he's Nicky,
the great Nick Richards.
Yeah, Nick Richards tonight. I got to put the new drop. I already have a new drop where it's all in Sun stuff already because he's already provided highlights. He's already dunking the ball and shit. Like, I just haven't uploaded it. It appears. But Nick Richards in this game, as you mentioned, playing alongside Kevin Durant looked really good. Only 3 of 4 from the field for 8 points, but he had 15 fucking boards. He had 4 offensive rebounds. What'd you see from Nick Richards? I haven't heard your thoughts really on Nick Richards.
No, I know.
Break it down, Matthew Lissy. Make sure your hands are proper.
Oh, they're down here, but they are.
Okay.
They're
Perfect.
definitely together still. Even against the small game. Yeah.
Mr. Ace Ventura shirt.
Yep. Look at those nips. Man, Richards is he's great, but the thing is like he fell off last game, obviously. So there's gonna be a transition of like, man, is he really that good? Is he actually gonna help the Suns? From first glimpse, like the first 3 games, the second game he did fall off, but this game and the first game, you can just kind of see like, the athleticism, the way that he can box out and just go in there and grab boards. He plants himself at a perfect spot under the rim to where he can really grab everything around him with those long arms. And the best thing too, when he does grab him, he's going to push it out and he can throw it long distance too, down the court to start the fast break, but also the passes to the corner to outside the 3-point line. Like he gets him out there quick because he can just wrap himself around. Those arms can wrap himself right around the defender. So it's great to have that. Obviously, it pushes Plumlee back on the bench where he is excelling more, I feel like. Obviously, tonight he's going to kill Brooklyn. Yeah. But Oso, too, is taking another step back, too, where he's kind of like unplayable now. So Richards has come in and he's provided dominance at times. But what's nice is, like, I don't like to look at his field goals or anything like that. I love just to see, like, where he's at on the floor. It's like, oh, shit, where did he come from? It's kind of like a bigger Okogie, where it's just like, oh, well, he's, like, under there and he gets his arms wrapped around, but his fingers on everything. So he's a bigger Okogie, and he obviously can do a lot more than what we had before, and even with Plumlee on the court. So it's a plus for sure. It was well worth the trade. It's going to be interesting to see how this whole team comes together and how he continues, if he's going to improve or he's going to kind of just fall off. But I look for a steady improvement as the season goes on.
Yeah, he adds something that we didn't have, and I think that that's important to recall. He's not going to be Hakeem Olajuwon, Patrick Ewing, this unbelievable force that negates all opposing rebounds and grabs every rebound possible. But he does grab you rebounds, and he does finish on the interior, and those are 2 things that this Suns team really needed. I mean, we looked horrible against the Atlanta Hawks a couple games ago, when we gave up all those offensive rebounds, and that's because he wasn't there. 20 offensive rebounds we gave up in that game. It's because we didn't have anybody athletic enough to grab the rebounds, to meet the ball above the cylinder instead of waiting for it to drop into their lap like Nurkic does. Nurk grabs rebounds when they're down by his Johnson. He's like, there's the rebound. Like, he can't go up and get it. And Richards isn't going to, he's a $5 million a year center, but he gives you a wrinkle that can be productive. And Suns Fever 83 in the chat says Richards can rebound against crap teams. Still not starter material. Claxton had 12 rebounds. Not impressed. I'm impressed for price for value paid, and I know people are probably sick of hearing me say that because I said that a lot with Yusuf Nurkic, and I still am with Yusuf Nurkic. Like, price for value paid, okay, he didn't play up to his value this year, but last year he most certainly did. He was $16 million last year, 16.8, and he played up to that. This year he's 18, and he's playing down, unfortunately. But Nick Richards is a $5 million center. He adds athleticism that allows the Suns to space themselves a little bit more, and a defensive force behind them, somebody who can shot block and elevate to allow them to gamble some on defense like we used to be able to do with DeAndre Ayton. DeAndre Ayton, for all of his faults, when he was locked in defensively, he was a great defender who would allow Mikal Bridges to look so good because Mikal could gamble. And if he missed, boom, DA's right there. Nick Richards has some of that size, length, and lateral quickness that's going to allow him to be effective, coupled with his shot deterrence. And it's not going to happen every time, but that it does exist, and you felt part of that tonight. And like Sarah Tran says, and I think it's John Tran, a roll threat as well. We haven't had a roll threat all fucking year.
No, we haven't, but it's really just about having a decent center, right? Even if he is a bench center, he's better than what we had, and it's up to the other guys to really pull through and just get this thing done this year. With Richards, though, I think it's okay to say like he is a bench center. I think that the Suns obviously will ride by Kevin Durant and Booker, but also like the way Richards is going to perform, it's going to be up and down this year. It's not going to be anything where
Oh
it's
yeah.
going to be just crazy. Like, oh my God, like this guy's 20 and 10 every night. No, I just think that he obviously needs to improve and maybe he has another ceiling that we don't know of. But I'm not going to go out and just be so excited about this dude yet, right? I think getting the victory the last 3 games with him in the lineup, it does help. I think that, the Oso thing is kind of weird too, because like I was just thinking, I don't know if you want to talk about him, but
The
Oso,
whole
Oh. You know what I'm talking about.
Oso Ighodaro.
I love that you're bringing it up because it's the next thing I want to talk about. So
yeah, it's crazy. We go from starting him. Now we have Nick Richards, who's starting for the Suns, but also Oso's kind of like now we have our two bigs in Nick Richards and Plumlee, but also he's kind of a tweener. Like you don't know where to really to put Oso right now because he doesn't have the size, right? He's not really a power forward. Do you play him with these other two bigs? Do you play him with Durant again, like in the past? Like, what do you think they do with Oso moving forward? Because he's had like average like 7 minutes the last 3 games.
it's tough, and it's something that we've noted all season long. We appreciate his skill level and his basketball IQ, his ability to pass, his athleticism rolling. He has been somewhat of a lob threat this season, but we've said it throughout the season, and it's a challenge. And it's funny when people would say, should we start him? And we proposed that option on Brightside. We were like, well, if you're going to have Mason Plumlee out there and he can't do shit, you might as well put Oso out there because at least you have skill instead of size. But that lack of size, now that you have size, productive size with Nick Richards, Mason Plumlee, Nurkic, if he does play again for this team, should be the backup center in my opinion. But Oso Ighodaro is just a little too small to be a productive center, and he's not skilled enough relative to how he can space the floor to be a positive power forward. That's the challenge with him. If he had any jumper whatsoever, I'm not even talking a 3-point shot, but something to spread the offense, he would be a no-brainer on this team as a backup 4 because of his skill level, because of that acumen that he possesses, the playmaking, the dribble handoffs that he can run, understanding what defenses are throwing at him. Even as a rookie, his ability to process the game at such a high speed is a plus. But due to his size, he's just not there yet. And due to the fact that he can't shoot, he's just not there yet. So I don't know what Phoenix does with him moving forward. I know that Jusuf Nurkic is supposed to be the 4th string center behind Richards, Plumlee, and Ighodaro. But I see Nurkic, if he does play for this team ever again, should be the backup center because of the size and girth that he brings. And that's something that Oso simply can't. You can't teach size.
Yeah, it's a tough spot for him, and him coming off the bench tonight in the 4th, you can just tell he's like, God, this kind of sucks. Like everything was looking so like you see that off and on this year with Dunn. He has his highs and lows, and Oso's had his highs and lows too. So this is his next low. We'll see how he recovers from it because I feel like he's a guy that's going to get back in the gym, get better. Maybe we see an improvement next year, but right now it's just like the Suns just need a center to rebound and just to take the weight off of Kevin Durant as much as possible.
And Blaze Megatron in the chat says Oso should be first backup. Plum Dog is washed, noting that Oso has the identical range to Plumlee, and he isn't washed. So those are valid points. But from a box out standpoint, from a size standpoint,
yeah,
Oso, he looked bad in this game. I mean, and it's okay. He's not going to look great every game. He's a rookie, but he played only just shy of 9 minutes, had 1 assist, 1 rebound, a team worst -7, and it was the opposing rebounds that he was allowing the Brooklyn Nets second team unit to have at will that really kind of sparked the run for Brooklyn in that second quarter, where they got it down to 3. I mean, we were up by as much as 13 in the first half. They cut it down to 3 because of all the second chance points they were getting because Oso just simply couldn't box out. So and Saul's right. Rookies take time, and we'll see. I'd rather have him than not have him. I'll definitely say that when it comes to Oso Ighodaro. But should the Sun I know I just brain farted. Well, I see my notes. I'm like, okay, well, how do I how do I say this? For the season, real quick, the Suns are getting 3% fewer defensive rebounds when Oso is on the court. That's per Brendan Clean from the Locked On Suns podcast. That is the worst mark amongst any big man on the team. So again, the rebounding issue. Do the Suns need to go after Doo-Wop Reith from the Portland Trailblazers?
So if they're going size, then yes, absolutely.
And shooting. He can shoot 3 balls.
Yeah, there was, I think you said Gamble shot it down with the Advia stuff. Danny Advia, who I love. There was a trade with Nurk going back to Portland with DeAndre Ayton, which would be absolutely nuts.
That would be
Portland. If they had Nurk back, and they're already they've been sick of DA, but now it's been known with these podcasts now that are just kind of shouting out for help. They're just like, help us, God, this guy's on our team. So if you send back Nurk and you get a player that's obviously one of their better developed players, and Diop, it would be fantastic. Diop himself, like I said, shooting. Yeah, you said shooting, but the size, and if you play Oso, then I'm looking forward to a guy like that joining the team.
Yeah, it'd be interesting to see, obviously, and we'll get into this once we're done with like the subreddit stakeout and Jamstar, which we'll do probably a little bit sooner here, just because we want to talk about so many other things. But that is one of the possible targets for Phoenix, is to go after potentially a Robert Williams III, or we just like all the old centers from Portland. Go after Doo-Wop Reith. But yeah, D Coldest on Twitter, who just takes a ton of shots. It doesn't hit any of them. And then anytime you challenge, you're like, hey, man, you said this was going to happen and it didn't happen. He's like, yeah, it's very fluid, man. And so the NBA is fluid. I'm going to get them all right because it's fluid. But yeah, he had a trade proposal last night that sent Denny Advia and Doo-Wop Reith to Phoenix for Nurkic and picks. And it's like, come on, man.
Yeah, I know. I mean, if we got that, then absolutely. There's your power forward. The Suns fans now are like, we need a power forward after last game against the Cavs. It's like, we need everything, I guess, other than Kevin Durant and Booker. Like, what else do we need?
That's correct.
I guess we have our point guard, but still.
That's correct. All right, well, let's do some subreddit stakeout. You were in where the fuck were Brooklyn tonight? You were in fucking Brooklyn, New Orleans, yeah.
The Suns Jam Session Subreddit Stakeout.
All right, so for those of you who are new to the pod, what we do is we go to the opposing team's subreddit during the game to understand how they're processing the game. And you can't go dressed as yourself. So Matthew clearly went as Gambit.
I've been waiting for this for a long time. It's been a long time since I've been Gambit.
What were the Brooklyn Nets fans saying about this game? Gambit, Matthew.
Not too much. There's not too many hanging out. I think they only had one fan down there, so 2 fans maybe. But let's see what they had to say. It's bad when a guy signs out. It's bad when a guy we signed out of the G League last week is running the offense. Some other person said, "This is ass versus dog shit," which I totally agreed with.
It was so fucking slow. There's that one segment, the clip. It's like 2 minutes of just each team just throwing the ball, missing a shot, throwing it out of bounds, missing a shot, throwing it out of bounds. We're going to be another one. Remember that highlight earlier in the season where it was just like Bradley Beal takes a 3, misses. LeBron takes a 3, misses. D'Angelo Russell takes a 3, misses. Booker takes a 3. Like we're going to be this fucking punchline again on some stupid video. Anyway,
we have to be, right?
That's who we are.
Yeah. Someone else said, I'm actually nervous we're going to get a W. So no one wants to actually get a win there in Brooklyn. So, I remember those days back in Phoenix. Those are actually pretty nice. I kind of miss them. Phoenix not making the playoffs this year. One of the teams like Minneapolis or the Mavs will bounce them out in the play-in. I totally agree with that as of right now. And last one I got, because there was really no comments. I won't miss none of these bums next year.
The Suns Jam Session Subreddit Stakeout.
All right, let's give out some Jamstar.
Jamstar of the game.
Reminder, Jamster, subscribe, rate, and review. Let us know who your Jamstar of the game is in the chat. Matthew, who are you giving the Jamstar to?
I'll give it to Book.
I'm giving it to KD. I had only 3 quarters played. He won me money, man. He won me money. But David Ray gives it to Big Dick Booker. Jamstar's D-Book from Suns Fever. Aussie Suns fans gives it to Armani Mode. Jamstar. Mark Nettles. No. Jamstar. Aussie Suns fans. Okay. Big Dick Cooker Booker. So I mean, it seems like it's kind of consistent. So, all right, well let's talk about our thoughts because there's a lot of things we got to talk about.
Thoughts. Brains.
All right, so the Suns have been wheeling and dealing a little bit. They've traded their 2031 first round pick, their coveted 2031 first round pick, for 3 first round picks from the Utah Jazz. Now, these are all pick swaps where the Suns will get the worst pick in the, I forget what, I think it's the 25, 27, and 29 drafts. The worst pick out of Cleveland, Minnesota, and Phoenix. So 2 good teams in Phoenix. So what are your thoughts initially when you heard this trade and the strategy that you perceive the Suns are executing by doing this?
I was like, what the fuck? I had to reread the thing about 20 times and then go on a couple pods and maybe actually Wikipedia the thing. Yeah, so obviously you'll probably get more into details, but the next 5 years, the Suns are able to trade draft picks now. I mean, the fact that they had that number 1 pick in 2031, that's something that I think, is more valuable. But now the Suns have options to trade and they have more assets going forward when it comes to maybe just trading for somebody else other than Jimmy Butler, including maybe Jimmy Butler. So, I don't know if I feel more alive now as a fan, like, hey, we actually have a future now, because it was very grim. But it kind of seemed like, it was the right move to kind of get us jolted back to life a little bit, right?
Yeah, I think, well, one, it's Danny Ainge, who's the general manager over there in Utah, shorting the Suns, essentially. That's what he's doing. He's saying, you know what? I'm going to give you these picks that are all pick swaps, right? So regardless, they're going to be back. If you have 2 teams, Utah had it to where 2 teams, they're going to end up getting the worst pick out of Cleveland, Minnesota, or themselves, right? So no matter what, these are picks that are going to be in the 20s. Definitely not lottery picks. So I'm going to give you 3 lottery picks, and I'm betting Phoenix that you're going to suck by 2031. The same thing, mind you, that Danny Ainge did when he was at Boston with Brooklyn. And he traded with Brooklyn, and he gave up Kevin Garnett, and he gave up Paul Pierce, and he got back all those picks. And guess what? They got Jason Tatum out of that deal and some other assets too. So that's what he's doing. Now, what it does for the Suns is it's interesting because the Suns at the beginning of the season had control of the following picks: 1 first-round pick, which was 2031, and 3 second-round picks. Now, after the Nick Richards deal and this deal with Utah, the Suns have control over 3 extra picks, but 6 total first-round draft picks now. By bringing in these picks, they've unlocked all their upcoming first-round draft picks. And then they only have 1 second-round pick they have control over, okay? So it's a great move because, again, given how this front office operates, they're betting on themselves, and they're saying, you know what, we're not in the business of being in the lottery. We need these picks to sprinkle here and sprinkle there. So if we want to get rid of Yusuf Nurkic now, we have 6 picks at our disposal. We can send Yusuf Nurkic somewhere and 2 first-round picks that are pick swaps that are going to end up in the back end of a first round and get something back, and or just get off the Nurkic contract. Now, I don't know if that's the right move, but that's a move altogether. And then, of course, there's the Jimmy Butler drama and the opportunity to get Jimmy buckets.
I want to introduce you to someone very special here tonight. So let's all give a big round of applause to little Jimmy.
So
Jimmy,
you do have a drop.
I do have a Jimmy Butler drop. So Jimmy Butler mania is still going on. He's suspended by Miami now for 2 more games because he missed a flight. And the Suns, there's a lot of different things that need to happen for the Suns to get Jimmy Butler. The most important of all being Bradley Beal. What are your thoughts on Jimmy? Where are you now with all this Jimmy drama? Do you want him? Do you not want him?
I want him just to get over with, right? You can't move forward. You can't go past the trade deadline without getting rid of Bradley Beal now. Obviously he knows. Obviously he is disgruntled. He knows that the trades are out there. Whether he was told by the Suns or not, he knows that they want to get rid of him. Now, like what Gambo was really saying on Twitter is this is up to the teams wanting Beal back. So if he wants to go somewhere, that's fine. But the other teams need to they need to actually like him. So right now, to get Jimmy Butler, it means it puts an end to a lot of the drama, right? We get a better player back. We get a player that actually fits our starting lineup, our system better with whatever they're trying to do. Actually, I don't even know if we have a system, but he's actually a guy that we can look forward to have on this team. But the drama needs to stop. And I just think that, for that reason, yes, it's nice to have him. Plus, you don't want that Beal contract and the no trade clause anymore. And you get Jimmy Butler, who is still injury prone. He's still older, but that's the way the Suns team is now, man. We're going to have to get these players like this on the back end for the next few years if we want to keep Devin Booker. Because before this, it was like they got to blow it up. They got to own up to it. It didn't fucking work and just blow it up and get rid of KD and Book. That's where I was leaning. But now it's like, okay, now they're going to try to ride this out as long as they can to see if it actually works. And I'm not saying this is going to work and when it's a championship or even get into the second round of the playoffs, but it's better to just get this done and move forward as a team.
Yeah, so I've obviously gone back and forth on this. Perhaps a lot of Suns fans haven't, and they've made their mind up and go, nope, no Jimmy, I'm good. Or, yep, I want Jimmy, I'm good. I continue to go back and forth on this, and this is kind of where I'm at least today on the 22nd of January. The experiment has failed. It's failed horribly. The goal was to build around Kevin Durant and Devin Booker in this window that they both possess, knowing that Kevin Durant's on the back end of it all. And acquiring Bradley Beal was boneheaded. It was horrible. It was the worst move you could have made, in my opinion. We questioned it the day it happened. It's like, cool, man. They took a swing, but why the fuck did they get Beal? Because the window that is open for Booker and Durant is locked by Bradley Beal with that no trade clause. And there's rumors that somebody close to him who knows how he thinks says he'd be open to a no trade clause to go to Milwaukee. It's like the most vague shit ever that Andy Katz from The Athletic wrote yesterday. And then Chris Haynes today during the Suns game, put out a report that he's like, there's no merit to Bradley Beal wanting to waive his no trade clause. You have Josh Bartlestein talking to the Arizona Republic saying they haven't even talked to Bradley Beal about trading him, which in my opinion is borderline irresponsible. With everything that's going on, you should at least have that conversation. If you haven't had a conversation with Bradley Beal about trading him, you are wrong. You need to at least have that conversation and gauge his interest and include him in the process, because at the end of the day, he holds all the cards. It's not like you can just trade this guy. It's not like what you could potentially do with Jimmy, right? If you bring Jimmy here and he signs, he'll opt into his player option next year and then expect this summer to sign a I think it's 3 years, a bunch of money. You can still trade him at any time. You don't have to go talk to him. You can still trade him. It's probably not the best way to do business, but you can still do that. And I get it. His age, 35 years old. He's injury prone. But to me, the way that I've always looked at this and the way, and I said this a few podcasts ago, and I'll kind of continue to say this, is winning a championship, in my opinion, is not happening this year. The Suns aren't good enough. Bringing Jimmy Butler here, you get older, which is hard to do considering how old you are. But you get off the Beal deal. And to me, that is the most important thing right now, because we can't win a championship right now. You get off the Beal deal, and who knows what could happen with Butler after that. We've seen this team this season alone come into it hampered, have no assets, and now we have all of our next 6 first-round picks are tradable, and we have a second-round pick this year to trade as well. And like I said earlier, we had 1 first-round pick and 3 second-round picks. So there's always something to do. There's always some gymnastics that can be executed. I'd rather and I'm not a huge Butler fan. I'm not a huge fan of bringing him here. I understand the people who say, oh, well, he's disgruntled. Yeah, KD was disgruntled too when he came here. Bradley Beal was disgruntled when he came here. I know it's not working out. But to get off of Beal's contract, that should be the primary goal of this front office at this point. And you have to have those conversations with them.
Yeah. So if this doesn't happen, obviously it's going to be very awkward to continue the rest of the season. And the more I see the tweets from Gambo, kind of like, no one really wants Beal. Like, who would want him, right? So that's going to be very difficult. So I'm thinking if this doesn't happen and we end up losing the first round or not even making the play-in, or we lose in the play-in, I can just see Booker just kind of like leaving the game and head in the front office and just be like, you know what? or just not even doing that, just remaining quiet, walking out, and just telling his agent or whatever, like, I need to get out of here and to figure it out because I'm done here. So a lot of things, obviously with Jimmy coming in here, you want to kind of believe that it's going to work, and I haven't really believed it at all. I'm just really worried about the future of this team and losing Devin Booker and like how Matt Ishbia kind of just responds with that. Because if this trade doesn't work, maybe they end up having to trade Kevin Durant before the trade deadline. Like if it falls through, maybe Kevin Durant is available to trade or something like that, or no?
So. I don't think
No,
so.
you think they wait till next year? Because I was listening to Burns and Gambo, and Burns was saying, I think this time next year is when they blow it up. But I think it has to be this year. But
I think this offseason, if it doesn't work, if they don't get Jimmy, if they don't get off the Beal deal, I think that they take a look at what their options are this offseason. And then they maybe go into it next year, because pride is something that's real with somebody like Matt Ishbia. And they'll ride it to the next trade deadline. But yeah, they could blow it into the sun next trade deadline. So Burns and Gambo, most likely true. And I wrote a story today, and I will say this. It's always funny to me when on Twitter or whatnot, like if I provide feedback about a certain player, people are like, oh, you're just talking about your agenda. You're just fortifying your anti-Ayton agenda. And I'm like, no, man, I'm just telling you what I see. I don't have an agenda against anybody. I do have an agenda against Beal. I am actively writing pieces on Brightside, just like saying that this is the worst deal. They need to get rid of him. And I wrote a piece for Brightside. God, did that publish this morning or was that yesterday? I think it published this morning. And essentially, the way that the article starts is the Phoenix Suns 2024-25 season has begun with all the drama of a hostage situation. And the one scenario we dreaded most has become our reality. The Suns are the Nakatomi Tower. And Bradley Beal, he's Hans Gruber, smugly holding the detonator while the chaos unfolds. Dramatic, sure, but the reality for the Suns. Because it is reality for the Suns. He holds all the cards. He said it before. He can... This thing can get blown to hell. And as all the ashes are falling down... there's Bradley Beal just still standing there, because we could have to get rid of Booker and get rid of Durant, but Beal will still be here for the next 2 years, and that's frustrating.
Yeah, in that movie Die Hard, doesn't like a body fall in the cop's car to get?
Yes.
Yeah, so I think that's like Beal kind of falling on someone, falling in some city that a team doesn't really want him. That's Beal just falling out the window on top of the cop car to get things going. So that's how I see it.
And I wish the Bucks were interested. Continual rumors are like the Bucks are interested, they aren't interested. And again, that's why watching a basketball game tonight was actually kind of therapeutic around trying to understand all these rumors, because he would fit over there in Milwaukee, right? They got Dame Lillard, they got Giannis, they need a good two guard, boom. And the only way that they could do it, their second apron team, they'd have to move off Pat Connaughton. But I will say this, if Pat Connaughton gets moved anytime soon, that clears the space for Milwaukee to not be a second apron team and can thus aggregate salaries moving out. And they need to aggregate salaries, Chris Middleton's primarily, to clear space for Beal. So there's a lot of posturing going on. There's a lot of things that we don't really understand. A lot of people say, no, I never said that. But then all of a sudden, these kind of things tend to work themselves out. Again, Bradley Beal not playing tonight because his ankle hurts still. Jimmy Butler missing plays. Nurkic has been sick fucking forever. He's reconditioning. It's like, dude, that guy can't condition enough to ever come back. He missed the whole 5-game road trip. Like there's things here, underlying themes that are occurring that are happening right in front of our faces, and
he's pouting.
He is.
Nurk is definitely pouting. That's all it is. He doesn't want to show up. And you know what? I do blame him, because he wasn't like, I remember starting the games off with just like 2 fumbles and a turnover, and then obviously like all his missed layups. So I'm kind of glad he's not showing up. And it's just weird, these players just kind of don't own it. I guess it's kind of tough, right? You kind of been the guy for so long, and now you're like, what? I'm not starting. I'm going to come off the bench. It's embarrassing. So I could see why he pouts. And the fact that the Suns are kind of moving forward, end of this trade deadline the way they are, we haven't enjoyed a basketball game, I feel like, in forever. I feel like it's been a season and a half since we enjoyed like one game, I feel like, you know what I mean? So it's kind of been rough, and it's going to be even interesting if we do get Jimmy Butler, if that even seems even more enjoyable. Because one thing I noticed too tonight with like Grayson Allen, like I love Grayson Allen. I don't even enjoy watching him anymore. Like I just, you know what I mean? I feel bad for the dude out there. So I don't know what's going to happen.
Well, his ass could be on the chopping block too. He's a viable contract that you could trade, and everybody needs shooting. So I mean, it's just that time of year too, where everyone's playing a little with their butts clenched because they don't know if they're going to be traded or not. Are they buyers? Are they sellers? Should the Suns be buyers or sellers? That's a question. I think everyone thinks they should be buyers. I think they think they should be buyers, but this time next year they might be sellers, based on what happens this year and how we perform next year. I didn't think that at this point of the season we'd be 22-21. I think that we thought we'd at least win 5 or 6 more games, which makes your record look a lot better, but you just never truly know.
No, you don't. But now we know.
All right, one last question before we get out of here for you. And I want you to think this through, and I want to have a conversation about this, okay? $10 million right now in your hand, but there's a catch. A snail is chasing you for the rest of your life, and if it touches you, you die a terrible death. That snail cannot be killed. It knows your location at all times, and its only purpose is to find you. Are you taking the money?
Yes, I am. Because if I want to just die, I'd just be like, where's that snail at, dude? Let's go backwards.
Suicide by snail?
Like, hold on. How bad does this hurt? Oh,
so how would you survive? This thing is always coming for you. It's like the T-1000. It's not going to stop.
Yeah, especially $10 million is not that much. Maybe $10 billion. That way I can just get across country every now and then, right? Or kind of just go on the other side of the world.
You can get across country with $10 million.
$10 million? I feel like it would go by so fast, dude. I think it would. Especially you have to I don't know, man. How big's that wall that Trump's building? I don't know. I can't get over that, right?
I think the snail can get over it, yeah.
Okay.
It's a snail. It's slow,
Let's go to Mexico. Okay.
It's slow. Well, I was having this conversation with some friends, and we determined that a snail goes 33. It goes 0.3 miles per hour. So essentially, we did the math on it. It's to get from here to San Diego, it would take 488 days. And I did the math on it. From here to Hawaii, it would take a snail 10.6 years to get there. So what you do, there's a couple things you can do with this thing. One, you pay somebody to put a tracker on it. I can't go near it or it's going to kill me, but I pay you. I'm like, here's $100, put a tracker on this thing so I always know where it's at. And as it's sloshing across the ocean floor, I know where it's coming. And then in 10 years, I head back. I head back to the continental United States and I go back and forth. But the one thing you got to be, if it's a tricky snail, maybe it gets on a plane and it gets into somebody's luggage and it flies over to Maui. And next thing you know, it's I'm watching it come super quick and I have to start making some decisions, man.
Yeah. That's a tough one. I'll think about it though. Next pod, I'll let you know if I'll take it. But right now I'm up in the air.
Another thing I would do with this snail.
Sure,
Nothing I do with this snail is I would put it into a box. I'd pay you to put it in a box and put a GPS tracker in there, right? And then,
okay.
And then I'd pay you to go to northern Canada, dig a hole, and bury it.
And then it would just be done.
Potentially. And then I live out my life.
I want to see what the snail looks like. What if it's the size of Godzilla?
If it's a Godzilla snail, well, that completely changed everything because it travels much, much faster. And so Suns Fever says, hell yeah, take the money, buy a bubble like Travolta had. Yeah, but you have to get food in there unless you're crop, if you have your own crops that you're building in there, growing in there. Because if you're having supplies coming in and out of your bubble, who knows it? Maybe it hitched a ride. You just don't know, man. This thing's one thing is it wants to kill you. Megatron, can we just pay somebody to stomp on it? No, it's indestructible.
He just goes through buildings. Yeah, it'd be good. It would be a good reality show, I think, too.
Yeah, it's just
Yeah.
Sorry, these are the things my friends send me. I forget even which friend send that to me, but I'm going back and forth all day with people on this. Yeah.
I just want to know who that guy is that gives you the money. It's how did you run this thing? Where'd you get the snail from?
Yeah, did you generate this thing in a lab?
From? Yeah.
Seth Logan Hopkins in the chat. Is the snail a metaphor for the Beal contract?
Yeah. For every other team.
If you have to trade Ryan Dunn in order to get Jimmy Butler in any capacity, would you do it?
I don't care.
Wow.
No, I wouldn't. I wouldn't because I feel like there's potential there. And I'm not too excited about a Jimmy Butler. So I don't know. I just wouldn't. Right? This is not like the Kyrie Irving thing where you throw in Josh Jackson, you get him. That was a thing, I think. So if that was the case, then yeah. But now I'm just would you?
No, heck no. We need youth.
Yeah,
I think that's one
that
of the
might be the
biggest
one
things
thing. Yeah.
with Jimmy that's a challenge for people. It's like he's just old, and we see it, and I talk about it all the time. Jimmy Butler possesses the one thing that we don't have, and that or the one thing we do have, and represents everything we don't need. When we go against these young teams, when we play Charlotte and Brooklyn last time we played them, and you have all these young teams that run the Suns off the floor, it's the energy that negates effort, because we don't have energy because the team's old. At the back end of the game, effort goes, and therefore the lead goes, and it's a butterfly effect. And having Ryan Dunn, having Oso Ighodaro, even though we had a conversation about him being less productive due to his size tonight, they still have youth, and that's something that we need in Phoenix. And that's why Jimmy Butler turns people off, and why you would never, ever include Ryan Dunn in any deal to get him. No. Last time I checked, I put a poll on Brightside's Twitter feed. 1,300 votes we had. 93% of the fan base said no. And they're currently tracking down the other 7% who said yes, and they're doing so by sending out an army of killer snails. So if you voted yes, man, you're probably not going to get $10 million, and a snail is going to kill you.
And also, if Kevin Durant was, I don't know, if Kevin Durant and Booker were dead on oh my God, we just need the one more dude to help, like a Jimmy Butler, then yeah, I would do it. You know what I mean? If we can count on the other guys, I can't even count on them really. So not yet. So there's another factor why I would say no.
All right. Well, that's all we have for this edition of the Suns Jam Session podcast. Make sure you subscribe, rate, review. Up next for the Suns Saturday night, they're playing the Washington Wizards. So potentially
maybe that's Jimmy night, huh?
Oh,
it would have to be.
Should I play the Jimmy drop again?
Yeah.
Here we go.
I want to introduce you to someone very special here tonight. So let's all give a big round of applause to little Jimmy.
Little Jimmy.
Perfect. Number 22.
Jimmy. That's his number, right? In
I think
Miami?
So. It looks about right.
I don't know.
Yeah.
If not, I'll change it accordingly. But thank you, everybody, for joining us. Subscribe, rate, review. Hit that thumbs up button. Matthew, tell them what they can do.
Go home and love your Jimmies.
Hey, you're listening to the Suns Jam Session podcast, shooting the shit about the Suns since 2019.